Alrighty, so we're now in the penultimate episode of the Moving Forward series for 2021, and we're now getting to the part where we talk about the two teams that made it to MLS Cup. Though in this episode, I'll just talk about one of them, and in this case, the loser of MLS Cup, that is the Portland Timbers in the Moving Forward series. And before I actually start, I just want to apologize in advance that, since I put the text in green for majority part of it, it's going to be relatively hard to see. And usually I never put green text on the board, but because of the fact that this is a Cascadia team, and unless you're not the Vancouver Whitecaps, which the Whitecaps have always been a team that's been a forgotten Cascadia team because they always tends to be that Cascadia team that does not do well whatsoever. But it also doesn't help the fact that they don't wear green like their Cascadia neighbor. But anytime when I have to talk about Portland or Seattle or any team that wears green, I usually put like green text there because it makes sense. They wear green, and green is definitely one of my favorite color besides blue. So in terms of this season for the Portland Timbers, well, it's been an interesting season, and in some way I would say that even losing MLS Cup, and as painful that is, it's still a successful season considering there were expectations that this team was going to be good, but do they actually feel like they were going to make an MLS Cup run this year? Probably not. And especially what we saw in the playoffs when they started to lose their best player in Sebastian Blanco, it looked like it was done. Like it looked like it was a matter of time before they're going to get eliminated in the postseason. But somehow they were able to get themselves into MLS Cup and make it to MLS Cup for the third time in 6 years. But unfortunately, just like their Cascadian neighbor, the Seattle Sounders, last year, losing it to an Eastern Conference team, the Timbers would do the same thing, though they would do it at home in the MLS Cup against NYCFC. But overall, they finished with a record of 17-4-13 and finished with 55 points. They scored 56 goals this season, but allowed 52 goals, which again, it is a lot of goals that they conceded, and that the defense was once again an issue. Though I will say that it was an issue, at least in the majority part of the regular season, but not so much when the postseason began. Like when the postseason began, that defense definitely were one of the more lockdown defense we've seen in the league, and they had a goal differential of +4. And they finished 4th in the Western Conference, though they lost MLS Cup. And don't forget, they were also in the CONCACAF Champions League last year, but they lost in the quarterfinal. And just like how I talked about in the last episode, the Philadelphia Union lose to Club America in the CONCACAF Champions League. The same thing with the Portland Timbers, losing to Club America in the quarterfinal. Top goal scorer, we got Felipe Mora. That is actually the top goal scorer, which is kind of a surprise to some people because you would think that it would be either Blanco the one or even Valeri be the top goal scorer of this team. But no, it's actually Felipe Mora, the one that finished with 11 goals, followed by Darren Asprilla, who not only break the curse that he is actually now allowed to score goals every single month, but had a career year this year with 10 goals. Followed by Sebastian Blanco with 7 goals, Jimmy Chara with 6 goals, and then Jeremy Aboasi, who's no longer with the Timbers and got traded to the Quakes in mid-season, finished with 4 goals as the top 5 goal scorer. Top assist leader, unsurprisingly, Sebastian Blanco leads the list, though he actually is in a freeway tie with Jimmy Chara and Marvin Larea in terms of the top assist leader with 7 assists. They got Felipe Mora with 5 assists and Santiago Marino, who they highly rate that he's going to be a really good player after they signed him last season. He finished with 4 assists to round up the top 5 assist leader. So what went right for this Portland Timbers side? Well, the incredible run that they embark after a Cascadia Derby win in September. So I talked about this before where, there is a reason why winning the Cascadia Derby is important, but it's especially emphasized in terms of the last Cascadia Derby between the Portland Timbers and the Seattle Sounders, because whoever wins that, you're not only get some bragging rights over your team for at least one day, but you could set up to have a good run. Like we've seen before where whoever wins that last Cascadia Derby, or just in general, winning a Cascadia Derby, you're going to actually propel to go on a good run. And that's exactly what the Timbers were, because before that Cascadia Derby against the Sounders, or that last one, they were a team that was in rock bottom mode. Like they just drew to Sporting KC. They lost to Austin once again. And then let's also not forget about what happened in the prior meeting, which is kind of one of the things that went wrong for them this season when they just got absolutely embarrassed by the Seattle Sounders in that game. But yeah, I mean, that was a huge win to really kick off a good run to get themselves back into playoff contention and finish respectfully in the Western Conference standing. Darren Esprilla decided that he's allowed to score goals all year. So again, I always have that jokes and that meme about how Darren Esprilla, he's only allowed to score when playoff time comes, and there's a reason why he's called Mr. October or Mr. November, depending on when the MLS Cup playoffs begin, because he always scored some big goals. And I feel like this year it's kind of almost reverse in terms of him, because I know there was a lot of he still had a career year this year in the regular season, but I was kind of a little bit let down of how Darren Esprilla performed in the playoffs. Like, I keep predicting that he was going to score a goal, but he just never able to do. In fact, he actually got more red cards in the playoffs than he actually got goals. So it's almost like it was the reverse Darren Esprilla that we saw, where he was a guy that just are allowed to now score goals all year, but he's not allowed to score when playoff time comes. But nevertheless, what a career year that he, of course, had, and it's going to be interesting to see if he can follow that up heading into next season. And then, of course, the last thing is the defense. They don't give up too many late goals and was locked down in the playoffs. So, again, one of the things that I've always beat the dead horse with the Portland Timbers is that this is a team that is notorious in terms of giving up late goals. And although they did had a couple of times last season shown that old habits of giving up late goals to drop points or even lose a game, they don't do it as much as what we saw in 2020. Like, in 2020, it was almost like an annual tradition to see the Timbers dropping points and giving up late goals, and it has to drive every Timbers fans insane, knowing the fact that, even though they're leading the game, they know what's going to happen. They're probably going to blow it late, and they're just having a tough time in terms of closing out game. And heck, even when they got eliminated in the playoffs in 2020, it was kind of almost a textbook way for them to get eliminated, giving up a late goal to FC Dallas and losing it in a PK show when they were just minutes away of moving on into the next round. So at least, they finally fixed that habit. And then, as I said, the defense, even though it sucked for a majority of the year, it got its act together at the right time to be very locked down in the playoffs and kind of guide them to go on a good playoff run. So what went wrong for this Timber side? So one of the things that, of course, definitely went wrong for this team, besides losing MLS Cup, is the injuries that they had in terms of star player throughout the season. I mean, I talked about Sebastian Blanco. Not only did they lost him during the playoffs, but they actually lost him for majority of the beginning of the season. And really, once he did come back in, that's when we saw the Sebastian Blanco that we saw from last season, especially in the MLS's back tournament. And again, the reason why he didn't play for a majority of the year and actually didn't get started until like around the middle of the season is because he was still recovering from that torn ACL that he suffered last season against the Seattle Sounders on the road. But once he's back, there's no doubt that he has once again showed his quality, but also the fact that when he went down with that injury against the Colorado Rapids, and even though he miraculously recovered in time to play in that game against NYCFC, you can clearly see that he was not 100% healthy. And in some way, he kind of almost rushed his way to get back. And I don't blame him, the fact that, he gets to participate in the biggest game of the season and in a game where not a lot of players will ever get to experience in their life. And especially, I know there's always that say that if you don't win MLS Cup, there maybe is next year. But what if there is no next year? Like, there's a reason why I think every head coach cliche whenever their team talks leading to MLS Cup is give it all you got. You might never come back at this stage, and in the case of Sebastian Blanco, and especially with him getting up to his age, he knows this might be his last shot of winning MLS Cup. So even if he is still kind of injured, he's going to try to give it all. But you just kind of sense that even though he tried to do that, he was definitely not 100% healthy and not at the level that we've saw in the regular season. And this is also kind of why I said that maybe, as much as yes, it was tempting for him to of course play in the biggest game of the season, he's got to also worry about the long-term effect, and that I was worried maybe he was going to re-aggravate that knee injury that he has. And if you re-aggravate it, that could be a serious blow for your chance to once again compete in the highest level in the next season, and especially for a guy that just come back from a torn AC injury. Yeah, it's difficult to try to come back from another kind of knee injury that is not like a torn ACL, but nevertheless, from what I heard, it seems like he's gonna be ready to go, and at least he has this off season to heal. Looks like things are going to be okay with him, though. I will say that when I talk about the moving forward of this team, there is still one doubt that we have with Sebastian Blanco, and it's not even injury related. Losing 6-2 to the Seattle Sounders at home. Yeah, I know every Timbers fan want to kind of dismiss that because they'll say, hey, we still made it to MLS Cup. Let's just forget about that game. I mean, as much as, yes, I think Timbers fan will definitely say that in advance, I don't think anyone will forget. I mean, that was just simply the most humiliating loss in this franchise history. Like, it's not even close in terms of how bad that loss was. Like, to lose badly to a team is already bad enough, but to get humiliated on national television, nevertheless, against your biggest rival, that's the ultimate humiliation right there. So I think that is definitely something that I think we'll never forget, and I'm pretty sure Sounders fan will never forget that too, because something tells me Sounders fans are going to make jokes about that, and unfortunately, if you're a Timbers fan, you're just gonna have to swallow it, because that's the reality of the fact that maybe you shouldn't be losing like that badly at home against your biggest rival. Then, of course, not giving Diego Valeri the fairy tale farewell in MLS Cup. So today it was officially announced that Diego Valeri is leaving the Portland Timbers to go back to his boyhood club in Argentina, that is Linus. And again, it's understandable because you can clearly see Valeri really hit off a clip this season, not even playing a lot of minutes. But one thing I am kind of criticized with the Timbers is not just them not giving him a good fairy tale farewell, but the fact that he didn't even get a lot of chance in the playoffs. I mean, I'm really surprised. Like, yes, I understand he was definitely not a shell of his old self, but give the man a chance. Give him a chance to give one last magical moment of a guy that has done pretty much everything for your club and makes you why you are at the time that you are. So the fact that they didn't do that, it's really kind of puzzling, and I'm pretty sure some Timbers fans are even saying the same thing. Like, why did Valeri not get more minutes in the playoffs and have that one match moment? And because of the fact that they did not lose in MLS Cup, I just feel like that kind of farewell, it was a little bit sour in a way where they were hoping that it would be a very good fairy tale farewell for a legend that they have, that is Diego Valeri. But moving forward, for this Portland Timbers team, so remember how I said about how there's another concern that Timbers fan has with Sebastian Blanco that is unrelated to injuries? He hasn't signed an extension yet. Now, I'm assuming eventually he's going to get an extension, and I would be shocked if they do let go of Blanco, because why in the world would you let go of your best player? Like, I'm pretty sure Timbers fans will just they would take even a huge gut punch in the stomach. I mean, they kind of already feel a little bit bittersweet with how Valeri leaving, but imagine if Blanco also leave and we see both of them leave at the same time. I don't think Timbers fan would really be happy whatsoever about that. So there's no doubt that I think they have to sign Blanco to a contract extension. And I know injuries has been a problem for him, but for a guy like him that is easily at times their best player, it just makes no sense, the fact that they decided to let him go even at the age that he is starting to approach. Will there be a goalkeeper revolving door this offseason? So Steve Clark is no longer the goalkeeper of this team, and now it seems like they're trying three different goalkeeper with Jeff Antonella, who I don't think he's going to be back in time for the beginning of the season because he's still recovering from a season-ending injury last season. So that leads with Ivicic and David Bingham being the two goalkeeper that's going to be fighting for that top spot. Yes, I mentioned David Bingham. Did I mention how he basically now signs with the Portland Timbers? Like, he is trying to anger Quakes fans even more by joining rival team. Although I will say that as much as I know some Quakes fans do get frustrated with the Timbers and see them as a rival, I actually don't see them as much of a rival as I see with the Seattle Sounders. Like, it would be just the ultimate FU that David Bingham would give to the Quakes fans if he even joined the Seattle Sounders one day, and maybe even an ultimate FU to Timbers fan, because I don't remember a lot of time where we actually have a player that played in both sides of the Cascadia Derby. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that's going to go. I mean, Ivicic last season, he definitely showed the capability that he can be a decent goalkeeper, and he had some games where he was definitely trying to channel his inner Manuel Neuer and to Stegen or even Edison kind of goalkeeper ability, but he's also kind of inconsistent at time. And then of course David Bingham, there's a reason why the Galaxy let him go, because he's not a good goalkeeper. And that time of him being an elite goalkeeper in his day with the San Jose Earthquakes, those days are long past. So it's going to be interesting to see who's going to be that goalkeeper that can sustain their spot to be the starting goalkeeper, and whether or not if this is going to be an issue, because to not have a goalkeeper that you can really trust, that could be an issue too, because we've seen before where even some of the most elite team, if you have problems with the goalkeeping position, it could really damage your season. And it's no wonder when you look at all these teams that are competitive and teams that won MLS Cup, was one thing that each of these teams has, besides the fact that they have a good backline and a good defense and have a star player. Oh yeah, they also have a good goalkeeper too that make some big saves and also steal some games in the playoffs. So the fact that the Timbers might not have that could be a huge concern if they want to get themselves back to being an MLS Cup contender. And then the last thing moving forward for this team is something that, it hasn't really been talked a lot about, but it's definitely been talked a lot about if you are a team of this team. And that, of course, is the ongoing beef between the Timbers Army and the front office, or specifically the supporter group, the 187 versus the front office right now over scandal and mistrust. So, we heard about the scandals with the Portland Thorns, and one of the person, now I think one of the coaching staff did something really bad there, and that it kind of created a little bit of a scandal there. And then also not to mention what happened a couple of years ago, where the front office hands down said you can't bring that free arrow sign, which I think what was that the name of the sign? I mean, I've seen that sign so many times, but I never get the. I think that's called the Iron Front sign. Yeah, Timbers fans, of course, especially the Timbers Army, usually display that, and the front office basically just said no. And in some way, I don't blame the front office of saying that, because it's not them not really want that to happen, but they're kind of forced by the league, with the way that the league basically just said no political kind of signage. And then of course eventually that of course was overturned by multiple protests, not only from the Portland Timbers but also from other team that displayed that sign. But yeah, I mean, it feels like this is a beef that we're going to see throughout the season, and I don't think this beef is going to end anytime soon. Ideally, hopefully both sides of course would settle in. I mean, I've heard from Timbers fans that have some mixed feelings about this. I mean, some sides, the front office, and the fact that it's not the front office fault that this of course happened, but then there are also some that sides the Timbers Armies and how the front office are kind of inept in terms of building that relationship and team. And there's no doubt that I feel like the relationship between the front office and the fans, and while the front office has done well in terms of the signing, in terms of fan relation, it has not been great. Like these last couple of years, it's been going downhill, and this off season it really has hit a boiling point where there is legit beef, and there is a legit sense that there could be a fallout that could happen between the Timbers' most hardcore supporter against the front office this season. But either way, hope you guys enjoy this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash the subscribe button. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think of this video. Oh, by the way, I mentioned how I forgot the other thing that I didn't mention in the beginning of the video, that I also apologize in advance, and I actually don't know if I said this already, but the reason why I didn't wear my usual Timbers jersey is because I actually don't know where it is. Like, I think I might have lost it, and this is not the first time I actually lost a jersey, because I remember I used to have have a I used to have a Montreal jersey that I've just bought, and this is not the new one, but the old one. But I had it for like a day, and then it's gone. Like I couldn't find it ever again, and it seems like this is going to be the same case with the Timbers jersey that I had for a very long time. But fear not, Timbers fan, I will buy a Timbers jersey if I cannot find it, because the Timbers is considered, they're not only one of the more popular team in MLS, but one of the more successful team. And anytime when you have a success team and a popular fan base, there's no doubt I have to buy a jersey of that team and do it. But for now, hopefully I will find it, so I don't have to spend extra to buy a new Timbers jersey. But if I have to, I'm going to definitely do so. But either way, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys next time.